Today we're going to dive into the reign of one of ancient Israel's most, well, infamous kings, Ahab. And our main guide for this is going to be 1 Kings chapters 16 and 17. We're going to see how a kingdom that was powerful, that was stable, was brought right to the brink of collapse by a massive spiritual crisis. Right off the bat, the text does not pull any punches. I mean, that is the official verdict on King Ahab, and it's the strongest condemnation of any Israelite king up to that point. So what did this guy do to earn a title like that? Let's get into it.
To really get why Ahab's reign was such a unique disaster, we've got to look at what he started with. Because his story isn't just about one guy's bad decisions. It's about how political power was used to basically dismantle a nation's entire identity.
Okay, so for some context, you have to understand Ahab's dad, Omri, was a political giant. He founded a dynasty that was so important that for years, the powerful Assyrian Empire literally referred to Israel as the House of Omri. He built the capital city, Samaria, and he made the kingdom secure. So Ahab steps into a nation that is, for all intents and purposes, at the absolute peak of its regional power. And this is where the whole story takes a sharp turn. Because despite inheriting all this power and stability, Ahab's legacy gets defined by a religious crisis, one that struck right at the heart of Israel's covenant, that sacred foundational agreement they had with their God, Yahweh. And he didn't just stumble into this mess, he actively, deliberately made it worse.
So how did it all go so wrong so fast? Well, it all kicks off with something that on paper probably looked like a brilliant political move, a strategic marriage. But this one alliance would end up importing a conflict that would tear the nation apart from the inside out. So Ahab married Jezebel. Now she was the daughter of Ethbaal, the king of Sidon in Phoenicia, a huge maritime power. This was a classic political power move, right? Meant to secure borders, boost trade. But Jezebel didn't come alone. She brought her religion with her. And Ahab didn't just let it in. He rolled out the royal red carpet. And this was her god, Baal. Now, to really get the conflict here, you have to understand who Baal was supposed to be. He was the storm god, the rain bringer, the one who supposedly guaranteed good harvests and national prosperity. I mean, think about it. If you live in an agricultural society, worshiping the god of rain, well, it probably makes a lot of sense to a lot of people.
But here's the thing. Ahab doesn't just, tolerate Baal worship on the side. He makes it official. He builds the very first state-sponsored temple to Baal right in the capital city. He puts up an Asherah pole, probably for Baal's consort goddess. This wasn't some quiet compromise. This was a full-scale, top-down integration of foreign worship. So what you have now is this direct theological showdown. The core belief in Israel was that Yahweh was the one who controlled things like rain and harvests. By officially promoting Baal, Ahab was basically forcing the whole nation to ask, wait a minute, who really brings the rain? Who's actually in charge here?
And this kind of spiritual decay, it doesn't just stay at the top. It starts to trickle down. During Ahab's reign, you have this guy named Hill who decides he's going to rebuild the city of Jericho, a place with some really deep and frankly heavy history for Israel. Here's the problem. Hundreds of years earlier, a very specific curse had been pronounced by Joshua. Anyone who tries to rebuild Jericho will pay for it with the lives of their firstborn and their youngest sons. And unbelievably, during Ahab's reign, it happens. Just as the prophecy said, Hiel loses his son Abiram when he lays the foundation, and his son Segub when he sets up the gates. It was this shocking sign of just how much the nation had forgotten its own sacred story. Into this spiritual mess, into this vacuum, walks one of the most commanding, formidable figures in the entire biblical story. The state has its king, it has its new god, and now Yahweh sends his own champion to confront them both. This is one of the most audacious statements imaginable. The prophet Elijah just shows up, walks right up to the king, and declares a national drought. But notice his exact wording, according to my word. He's not just predicting bad weather, he's claiming he has the authority, on behalf of Yahweh, to start and stop the rain. He's challenging Baal directly on his home turf. And this is the question that just hangs over the entire nation. Ahab has built this shiny new temple to the rain god. So where's the rain? This isn't just a weather event, it's theological warfare. The drought is a public demonstration aimed at proving once and for all who actually holds power over creation.
The consequences are just devastating. We learn in the New Testament that this drought goes on for 3.5 years, and it brings the nation to its knees. The economy, which is all agriculture-based, completely collapses. Even the brooks are drying up. But while all this is happening, the prophet Elijah is being miraculously fed by ravens. The contrast is just staggering. The nation following Baal is starving, while the prophet of Yahweh is sustained. All right, so just when you think things can't get any more intense, the story takes this unbelievably ironic twist. Right as the drought is at its worst, God sends his prophet not into hiding in Israel, but deep, deep into enemy territory. He sends Elijah to Zarephath, a town in Sidon. Now, if that sounds familiar, it should be. This isn't just any foreign country. It's Jezebel's homeland. It's the absolute heartland of Baal worship. If Baal had power anywhere in the world, it should have been right here. Yahweh is about to make a huge statement, right on Baal's doorstep. And in this pagan land, two absolutely incredible miracles happen. First, Elijah finds a widow who is literally about to eat her last meal and die. But at his word, her tiny bit of flour and oil miraculously never runs out. So Yahweh shows power over providing food. But then, an even greater tragedy strikes. Her son gets sick and dies. Through Elijah's prayer, the boy is brought back to life. Now, stop and think about that. This is the first recorded resurrection in the entire biblical story. It is the ultimate demonstration of power. It's not just about who controls rain or food, but who controls life and death itself. Baal might offer fertility, but Yahweh is offering resurrection. And this is the powerful climax of this part of the story. A Gentile woman in Baal's own country makes the confession of faith that Israel's own king refused to make. She sees the proof, the ultimate proof, and she declares that Elijah's God is real and his word is truth. So you see how this whole thing just spirals, right? What began as a seemingly smart political move, an alliance, blows up into this cosmic showdown. Ahab's choices didn't just have political fallout, they forced a national, spiritual confrontation between two totally different claims to ultimate authority. And this story really leaves us with a pretty provocative question, doesn't it? When political power and divine authority smash into each other, what is the ultimate proof of power? Is it found in armies and alliances and royal decrees? Or is it found in the one who can control the rain, provide food from nothing, and ultimately even conquer death itself? That's the question this story just leaves hanging in the air.